brave, wasn't it? No. That song? A new song? Singing a new song? Just off the cuff? I think that's very brave. And why I think that's very brave is because for most of us, we like order. We like to keep what we understand within ourselves, a sense of safety. Most of us who have lived a life understand what it's like to live a life and try and control it. We like it in our perfection. That's the human condition. In the wisdom of God, He's made us somewhat a bit of a control freak. And our ancestors, thank God, were control freaks because they survived by creating society. And they survived by knowing what was safe for them, because control is about safety. And what you and I just did was do something very different. And for you and I who come to a place such as this, when especially we've grew up in a different faith or a different awareness, that's very brave. So to me, you're very brave people, because it tells me right away that you are looking for something outside of that which seems safe to you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't safe to your spirit. It doesn't necessarily mean that it isn't safe for that nature of who you are. What it means is that you know that there is more to you and more to your understanding of what your God is. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And that is brave. Because it always takes bravery and action and coming together to create a change within life. And it takes bravery to actually change our opinion. And throughout history of your country, opinion's been changed a lot, has it not? If we just go to the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, those people who lived in the 20s wouldn't believe the transformation if they were teleported to 2015, would they? I mean, women are wearing pants. That's amazing. Just think, if somebody was actually transported from the past into the future, what they would be thinking. It would not be comfortable for them. And yet here we are. And that was created by people who actually thought out of the box, who actually sought their bravery, who looked for something different. And here you are, in a place of God, looking for something different in the way you understand that to be. And that's brave. And it is also very challenging. It is challenging in so many ways because every so often we get challenged with a new concept, a new thought, and a new reality. We get challenged with a new awareness. And depending on where we are at any given time, it can be very uncomfortable. Can it not? For you and I aren't here to necessarily be comfortable. I will suggest that you and I are here to live life. And you and I who seek something different, something more. And then sometimes what happens is that which creates our safety, something different, challenges our awareness. Because the wonderful thing about that song was actually talking about listening to our hearts and listening to our spirit. And to be free. Because really, that's what spiritualism teaches. It teaches us to be truly free. And we cannot be free as long as we do not have peace. Some of us in this room have been brought up with a concept of judgment and a concept of separation, and yet you are brought to a place that in its roots started to ask people to be free. And by asking people to be free, to allow freedom in the world. That's a very powerful thing. But I need to ask, do you want to be free? Do you want peace? Because we often say we do, but then we want it in our way, don't we? want it in our way. I don't know about you, but I want my neighbors perfect. I don't want them to bother me. I don't want loud parties. I don't want this. I don't want that. I want them my way. And you know, that's okay to admit that. It is. But life teaches us that it's never our way. We may agree to a point, and it may have a rhythm that is our way from time to time, but it doesn't always go our way. And for some of us who were brought up in families where we had parents who maybe said, if you only do this, I will love you. If you do it my way, I know that you're a good boy and a good girl. I know if you believe in this way and you follow the family tradition, I know that I brought you up well. And that's their perception. But the pressure on that and the pressure on a child is enormous, isn't it? And here you and I are actually looking for a different way that has called us to a different place. Who would have thought for some of us 20, 30 years ago, or even less than that, that we'd be in a place like this, seeking an understanding of God to be free. To seek that God in freedom and in peace. Because one of the things that I believe that song also talked about is your happiness. And one of the things is some of you have already heard me say, and I say it all the time, are you happy? Are you happy? And if not, why not? Because the power of happiness relates to that song. It really is all in us. No one can make us happy. Isn't that true? No one can really make us happy. We think sometimes that only if they did that, if only my neighbor would turn down their music, I really would be happy to get some sleep. I wouldn't be a grumpy bumpy in the morning. And I can decide whether or not I can make a change. Because that change of seeking peace and seeking freedom, seeking happiness, is actually within us, which is really, really tough. It is tough, because whether we like it or not, we're a bit afraid. And even when we come to a place like this, sometimes we're even afraid that we're going to offend God. But if we truly believe in a Creator that is all-embracing, why would we even consider any type of fear, any type of punishment? Thank God that God is perfect, and we are perfectly imperfect. Because it doesn't matter. History teaches us that every religion, including this one, was made by human thought, and human rules, and human conditions, and human culture. But it has that one theme at the stray root of belief that God is compassionate, that God is understanding, and that God is all-embracing. And you are in a place that I will ask you to allow yourself to seek its freedom and to seek its joy. To seek not to struggle. Because struggle is something that we do when we are confronted by things that aren't always going our way. Some of us can struggle with addiction, and some of us can struggle with depression, and some of us can struggle with our jobs. Some of us can struggle with our worry and our concern. And it's very difficult in a society sometimes when we don't necessarily have the answer, but it is so true in those words that we sung today, that it is within ourselves. Because struggle is always going to happen, and the challenges are always going to happen, but it is we who can ease that struggle. We who can ease by being brave. Brave enough to allow the freedom, and brave enough to change our minds. Brave enough to challenge a concept that is different than ours. Because you and I just have to look in the newspaper to see that concepts create war, and concepts create separation, and concepts create pain. And even in Europe, where most of us came from, the majority of us came from, but almost every continent, there was war due to separation of belief of a God of compassion. So you're in a place that suggests that a God actually is embracing all things, everything, everyone. Isn't that fantastic? And in that challenge is to embrace yourself and that beauty within yourself. Because in that understanding of beauty, I will say this, that God only makes beauty. The Creator only creates beauty. And the only way we can see beauty is when we see beauty within ourselves. We cannot see the beauty and the awe of the majesty of the Creator as long as we cannot see our own beauty. And that song in particular suggests that. That before you, within you, and every time you look in the mirror, there is that light of the Spirit that is beauty. And that beauty awaits you to wake up into its freedom. To challenge those things to be able to say life is beautiful. To understand the beauty within ourselves. And we only have to look at nature, really. For even in nature there is struggle. A new tree struggles to survive, to grow. A flower needs to push out of its bulb every spring through the dirt to shine within the light of its beauty. Every aspect of nature works towards its shining point to head towards the light. And we are no different if we see that symbolism. So what would it take to allow yourself to awaken and to contemplate, to think about your beauty? To know that maybe, just maybe, the struggles are not any different than that flower that has to force its way through the soil, force its way up into the light and to bloom. Spiritualism teaches us that we are here to blossom in the enlightenment of the compassionate God, to seek that which no longer needs to be our struggle, but to allow ourselves to see its freedom. To be like a garden that has an array of beauty within it, and to seek its wisdom of a garden where we notice that an iris does not judge a tulip, a rose does not judge a carnation, but rather they are still within its beauty and create the most beautiful bouquet. We are no different, ladies and gentlemen. We are a bouquet of life. And in this room at this moment, whether you see it or not, you are beauty. One hopes that you allow yourself to see that beauty, to express it to the world, to take every struggle that you've ever had and to allow it to be that which blossoms in its greatness for others to see. For when others have the opportunity to see it, you become the great healer. You become God's healer. You aid in moving this life forward. And if you don't think that this society and this world needs advancement like it did 100 years ago, I will ask you to challenge your thought. For the world needs you to move forward, to change, and to be beautiful. And by doing so, making life beautiful. Thank you for your time.